That's the Portland, Oregon farmers market that Donald Trump is declaring a war zone. He says that that area is a raging war, that he needs to send the Marines in. That's what his order was yesterday. The Pentagon is utterly confused. Not Pete Hegseth, the sycophant, but the rank and file people have no clue what the hell Donald Trump is talking about in his tweet or his social media post, where Donald Trump says that I'm also authorizing full force if necessary. I want Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect the war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities that are under attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. That's what I'm directing my Secretary of War to do. As Dan Lamoth, a Washington Post national security reporter, writes, the full force language is not a term that's used in the Pentagon. There's no clarity on whether this means active duty troops like Marines, or does it mean the National Guard. There's no clarity on whether Trump intends to invoke the Insurrection Act, despite the lack of any kind of major rebellion. Nobody in the Pentagon knows what the hell he is talking about. That's a very dangerous thing, where someone's supposed to be the commander-in-chief, but they get emotional and write these social media posts that make no sense and that are very, very dangerous. I want to show you this video that Brian Mistrout posted as well. He's in Portland, Oregon. He took this video. Downtown Portland, Oregon, he goes, there's no Antifa, whatever the hell that's supposed to be. There's no demonstrations. There's no fighting. He goes, this is a war zone. This is why you're calling the military into Portland, Oregon. Watch this video that Brian Mistrout posted. Play this clip.
Here we are in downtown Portland. There's nothing going on. There's no demonstrations. There's no people fighting. There's no war zone. There is no reason for the military to be down here. It's just Portland.
And then Three Pianos in My House, they posted this video of, this was yesterday, right after Donald Trump's post. This is the suburb of Portland, Oregon. He goes, as you can see, hell on earth right here. Hell on earth. Here, play this clip.
I think I got 2 bottles of this, and I think I got 2 bottles. I don't know if it's Syrah or Merlot.
And the Oregon Senator Ron Wyden wrote, every single one of these clips was taken today in downtown Portland. Portland doesn't want or need a federal takeover. If Trump insists on sending federal resources, he can start with funding health care, bridges, affordable housing, and wildfire protection, to name a few. Watch what Senator Wyden from Oregon posted. Play it.
I have people that used to live in Portland. They've left. Most of them have left. But what they've done to that place is it's like living in hell.
And then even at the ICE facility, Senator Wyden went there, taken just a few minutes ago, right after Donald Trump made the post. Senator Wyden's team was at that facility to show what it looked like. And he goes, there's nobody there, basically. My message to Donald Trump is this: we don't need you here. Just stay the hell out of our city. Here, play this clip. While that's all going on, you've got Donald Trump making social media posts like this, spreading deranged lies and conspiracies. But this is the fire hose of disinformation and conspiracy that comes from your right-wing MAGA sycophants, where they try to bend reality. I mean, Donald Trump posts, it was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed, against all rules, regulations, protocols, and standards, 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. This is different from what Director Christopher Wray stated over and over again. That's right. And now turns out FBI agents were at and in the January 6th protest, probably acting as agitators and insurrectionists, but certainly not as law enforcement officials. And here's the thing that I always try to say. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a red state, a blue state, a purple state. This is utterly deranged lies by someone who's entrusted in this position of power who we can't trust at all. Let me just say this. There were, hundreds and hundreds of cases that went before juries in Washington, D.C. regarding January 6th insurrection. It was not a hoax. Every single person was convicted by a jury. Every single one by a jury who was involved in the insurrection. Donald Trump pardoned them all, including the most violent batch of them. Even Kash Patel, rather than correcting what Donald Trump said and saying that's a lie, Patel issues a clarification, and this is how Fox says it yesterday. FBI's Patel clarifies role of hundreds of agents on January 6th. Says Wray lied to Congress. Current FBI Director Kash Patel said the agents were sent to the U.S. Capitol for crowd control after it had been declared a riot, not during, not while it was taking place, not as agitators or fake insurrectionists. January 6th was not a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein is not a hoax. Russia is not a hoax. Doesn't it seem odd that the guy who spent his whole life bankrupting things and lying about literally everything, is the person who says that everything's a hoax, when in fact it's accurate? It's because he is a con artist and a criminal and a sexual abuser and a bad person. That's why. Our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, in other words, Kash Patel is forced to issue a statement that the fake story being pushed by Trump and right-wing media and influencers that these agents were embedded in the crowd is a lie, except he calls it a clarification. Watch how devious these vile pieces of trash are in the Trump regime, with the most vile piece of trash sitting in the Oval Office. Kash Patel writes, this is how he responds after Donald Trump just lies. Patel goes, 274 FBI agents were thrown into crowd control on January 6th against FBI standards. That failure was on corrupt leadership. Thanks to agents stepping up, the truth is coming out. Transparency, justice, and accountability. So because Donald Trump led an insurrection on January 6th, because Trump didn't call the National Guard, and after the insurrection was taking place and lawmakers believed they were going to die, and the FBI heroically stepped in to be helpful while Donald Trump was leading an insurrection on January 6, 2021, they were thrown into that against FBI standards, but Donald Trump's now using that to attack the FBI and saying that they were actually the insurrectionists. What are we talking about here, folks? And the Washington Post editorial board finally wrote a good one. They wrote the following: Trump's opening indictment against James Comey looks like an embarrassing dud. His opponents should be laughing more than cowering. They called this opinion the Keystone Cops Come for James Comey. Trump's first revenge indictment is looking increasingly incompetent. And as we've said on the Midas Touch Network, don't you see a pattern emerging when people who don't cower, when people who step up and stand up to this Trump regime leave with their reputation intact and they win, and those who capitulate find themselves as people or groups that Trump continues to go back and humiliate and shame over and over again? Just a reminder of what went down with Lindsay Halligan. Miss Halligan, who took over on Monday after her predecessor quit rather than prosecute Comey, Republican predecessor, with what he believed was insufficient evidence, had little trouble with the first two tasks. At one point, she entered the wrong courtroom. When she found the right room, she stood on the wrong side of the judge, then appeared confused about the paperwork the judge had signed. And the judge wanted to know, why are you bringing what appears to be a rejection of the indictment by the grand jury and claiming that it's actually a grand jury indictment? The whole thing was an utter mess. She's never been a federal prosecutor in her entire life. She was a beauty pageant contestant, then an insurance lawyer, then maneuvered her way to be Trump's personal lawyer. Then when Trump got rid of the Republican top federal prosecutor in Virginia who said there was no evidence, they brought in Halligan. Now, I want to share this with you. Hat tip to Angelina Costanzas, for getting this photo right here. This is from the General Assembly. You're looking at Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, as he gets a text message from Brooke Rollins, the Agriculture Secretary. And if you zoom in on the message, here's what it says. And again, Keystone Cop behavior right here. Here's the message from Brooke Rollins to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Finally, just a heads up. I'm getting, then it goes on to talk about zoom in a little bit more here. Just a heads up, I'm getting more intel, but this is highly unfortunate. We bailed out Argentina yesterday, Bessent, and in return, the Argentinians removed their export tariffs on grains, reducing their prices, and sold a bunch of soybeans to China at a time when we would normally be selling to China. Soy prices are dropping further because of it. This gives China more leverage on us. On plane, Scott, but I can call you when I land. And then they're sending somebody's X post or social media post to explain what's going down here. Again, I don't care what political party you're on. This is embarrassing. First off, why do you need a tweet or an X post to explain what's going on? You're the Agriculture Secretary. You're learning about this on Twitter or on X. That's kind of deeply embarrassing. And we know that our soybean farmers and our farmers in general, of corn, cotton, whatever, our farmers are suffering here and are all about to go bankrupt. We're bailing out Argentina, who Donald Trump and his regime said that Javier Milei was this brilliant guy and he was going to make Argentina so rich. Well, he's about to bring Argentina into bankruptcy. American taxpayers now pay $20 billion to bail out Argentina. By the way, we're throwing good money at bad in general as well, because Argentina has so screwed up their currency that the $20 billion is just going to go basically be eviscerated. We're not going to get it back ever. And then Argentina returned the favor by screwing us by selling their soybeans and undercutting the United States soybean market, screwing our farmers. So not only are our farmers and Americans getting screwed because we're bailing out Argentina with American taxpayer dollars, we're then doubly screwing the farmers and Americans because Argentina's then using that to undercut American farmers by selling their soybeans and their produce directly to China. Do you see what's going on? Again, this is Keystone Cop. This is just loser behavior. But as Donald Trump said recently, when he convened at one of his golf resorts, he goes, "Smart people don't like me." This isn't AI. This is really the speech that Donald Trump gave. Our editorial team found this clip originally, and it's since been viewed like 1 billion times. But here's Donald Trump saying, "Smart people don't like me." Here, play this clip.
Smart people don't like me, and they don't like what we talk about.
Yeah, smart people don't like Donald Trump because his behavior is outrageous and it's not logical. It's not helpful, and he just lies about everything, and he causes such grievous harm to Americans. I mean, look at this post that he made yesterday. This is a real post from his official social media account. It's a cartoon of him with the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, and Donald Trump says, "You're fired," and the cartoon depicts Jerome Powell holding a cardboard box filled with his belongings as though Donald Trump fired the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Like, that's not normal behavior that the president of the United States is taunting and harassing and joking. He's not joking because he says he wants to fire the chairman of the Federal Reserve. But how are you supposed to interpret this behavior? And we're on the verge of a government shutdown. I know now Donald Trump, after his approvals plummeting to 38%, says he wants to meet with Democrats at the White House on Monday or Tuesday. We'll see how that goes, by the way. But Donald Trump is now saying, "You're fired" to Jerome. Do we take that as you fired him, or the media is like, "Well, that's just Donald Trump being Donald Trump. That's just how he behaves"? Come on, that's not how adults should behave, yet alone the President of the United States. Again, we have to speak with moral clarity. When I say that he's a vile piece of trash, he is. I showed you why. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. He is. He's an authoritarian. He's a loser. This is loser behavior. If somebody in my 5th grade group project behaved like this, I would be humiliated to be with that person in my group on a 5th grade group project, for real. So why do we tolerate this with the President of the United States? Really? Doing cartoons that you're firing the main central banker in an independent body? That's not okay. That's not okay behavior. And you see what's going down. The Agriculture Secretary's sending social media posts to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. "This isn't good. Argentina's selling their soybeans now to China after we bailed them out. Oopsies. Oopsies." They're a bunch of idiots. They're a bunch of idiots. They're a bunch of idiots. Finally, corrupt idiots. Jared Kushner's firm is set to be part of a $50 billion buyout of Electronic Arts. Yes, after the Trump family's got UAE crypto money, Jared Kushner's fund, massive amounts of Saudi money, Qatari money, UAE money, I mean billions and billions of dollars. Kushner's private equity firm Affinity Partners is said to be in talks with the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund and Silver Lake to buy out the video game giant. Woohoo, everybody. Meanwhile, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. As Carl Quintanilla points out, Canada is now trying to lure tech workers who won't get into the U.S. based on Donald Trump's turning the H-1B visa program into pay me $1 million and maybe you get to come in, or pay me $100,000 or a company pays me $100,000 and maybe you get to come in. Other countries are capitalizing on that. We need to recognize what's happening around the world. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe.